Hi, welcome back to Julisa's Crochet and More. This is your host Julisa. Thank you for joining us. Please remember to subscribe. This video that we're going to explore this time is going to be about sharing the basic materials needed that then we can get started. Stay tuned. As we explained before, we are going to be exploring today the materials needed that we can begin our journey into crocheting. So the first material that we will explore is the crochet needles. So this one, for example, is a metal hook. It comes in letter and also number size. I usually don't use this one anymore because it tends to give me bumps in my fingers. And it has a weight to it, so sometimes it's difficult to use it for a period of time. Then we have the wooden hook. I actually have never used one of these. I have read a lot of great reviews about it. They say that the displaying is very good. Actually, it feels very light, but honestly, I have never used it. Then we have the plastic ones. These ones are very beautiful. I don't usually use this because they tend to bend and they tend to break. So this one I don't usually recommend and I don't use. Then we have the ergonomics hooks. These are my favorite ones. These are actually the ones that I always use because the handle right here is very soft and it's very easy to handle, and I love when it comes to the displaying. So these are actually my favorite ones. One thing that we have to take in mind is that when it comes to crocheting, hook size are very important. For example, for a beginner, it's usually good to use between a 4mm hook to a 5mm hook. You will actually find the size right here at the end of the hook. Now we're going to review our different type of needles. So needles are important first because they help us either sew in different sections of our project, or they help us sew in pom-poms, clothing hats, or put, let's say for example, buttons or different decorations in our project. So for example, these are called the cable needles. These are the famous tapestry needles, and these ones are the sewing plastic needles as well as the cable. These ones right here, the one with the pink, are called the cable crochet needles. And this is something to have, at least if you cannot get all of them, at least you want to have the plastic sewing needles, which are these right here. Okay, the tapestry needles are also very good, and any of these you can find them in any crafting store. Here we have our stitch marker and a piece of yarn. Actually, it's a little leftover piece of yarn. So the stitch markers are used to keep track or mark down space in the project where we either have to switch to a different stitch or we have to change to a different pattern. So the stitch marker is, like it said, is a marker to alert us when the change needs to be done. Also, the little leftover yarn can be used as a stitch marker in our project, that then it can do the same thing. It can alert us that either we need to change the stitch or that we already completed the rounds. The material is a tape measurement, and the reason is because many patterns, instead of giving us stitch counts, they give you a measurement. And the reason is because people tend to crochet in a different ways. Some people tend to crochet a little tighter, other people tend to crochet a little loose, and that alters the length or width of your project. So a crochet measurement will help us and will guide us to make sure that we fall within those parameters. In addition to that, sometimes we do want to alter the patterns because we need it for something else. So the only way that we will be able to do that is if we measure our creations. Now let's go over the yarn. The yarn come in different sizes, different colors, different materials, and different brands. For example, this one is 40% acrylic and 60% cotton. It's actually very soft. It's a medium size yarn. It calls for a 5mm hook. If you see here in the label, it will tell you basically everything that you need to know about the yarn. Sometimes they even bring crochet patterns for you to use. For example, this one, it tells you it goes for a 5mm hook, is the recommended. It tells you the name of the yarn, tells you the material, it tells you the ounces and the yardage of the yarn. It's a very soft yarn. I actually like this type of yarn very much. And as you can see, it has changing color without having to change yarns. So the yarn itself change color. I actually like this one when I need to make certain things without having to cut the yarn. Then we have 100% acrylic yarn. This one is also a medium size yarn. Is like you see, 100% acrylic, says 6 ounces. It tells you the yardage, it's 315. It goes for a 5mm hook. In comparison to the other yarn, this one is a solid color. Like I said before, as long as you know the type of hook that is recommended for the yarn, which is right there in the label, you can select any yarn that you would like. Different yarns are used sometimes for different projects. It also has to do a lot with your climate. Usually bulky yarns, thicker yarns are for colder or winter weather. Then you will select lighter yarn for places where the temperature is more warm and things like that. But very important, always keep in mind the recommended hook size, which is found in the label. Hi, for the next episode, we are going to be using a 5mm hook. You can choose any one of your choice. However, I will be using the ergonomic 5mm hook because I find it easy to use, but you can find any one as long as it's 5mm. In next week's video, we are going to be using a medium-sized yarn, which is recommended to be used with a 5mm hook. You can choose any yarn, any brand, any color, as long as it's medium size and is to be used with a 5mm hook. If you have any questions, any ideas, or any thoughts, please feel free to leave them in the comment box below.